Hi, I'm Allison Ponthier, and I'm here to speak out on title.
Hi, I'm Willa Bennett, and I'm here to speak out on title. It's just so good to see you finally after all these years. So I have some questions for you, and then I want to hear everything. I want to hear about the video. I want to hear about your life. I want to hear about moving to New York. Can you paint me a picture of what that was like when you moved to New York and your experience of it?
I'm originally from Texas. I grew up there from when I was around 5 to 21. And I had always wanted to move to New York. I always saw it in movies. I was big on movies then, and I'm big on movies now. And so for me, it was so easy to fall in love with a city that I had seen in so many of my favorite films. So yeah, it always been a goal to move there. I had no idea what I was doing because I was a young adult. And when I moved there, I was 20, about to turn 21. And I had all these like big plans, like, oh, I'm going to move. I'm going to meet so many people. In Texas, I like don't know any like music industry adjacent people. And I decided like, oh, I'm just going to move and immediately just like be in the music industry, I guess, like Coyote Ugly or something. And that was not what happened. I moved. Had a lot of trouble staying like financially afloat. I was in hot water and almost had to move back like a million times. I didn't know anybody, so I felt really alone. And then I met my now girlfriend 4 years ago, and I was not out yet. And I didn't know how to be. I didn't have a community that I was close to when I was in Texas. And that was really emotionally heavy for me when I first moved. So yeah, it was a rough start, but I think that's like what everyone says. Everyone's like, if your first year in New York was great, then like something is wrong. So
Definitely part of the like creative journey for sure.
Definitely.
How did you meet?
I met her classic love story on Tinder. We went on a date and like I was so scared of girls. I was like terrified of girls, which is actually like a huge problem. Every time I would be around a girl that I liked, I would fully freeze up and like freak out because I wasn't really out, or I didn't know how to like comprehend those feelings. And Kate was the first girl that made me feel comfortable. So yeah, I met her and then I was like, I just want to spend like every day with her.
I love that. So I guess what's like the biggest thing New York taught you about yourself, and how has that influenced your music?
New York has taught me a lot. I think that it's an invaluable thing to be surrounded by other cultures and other kinds of people, especially when I grew up in kind of a bubble. So it's taught me a lot. I think that I lived in my own world, which has been a benefit to me in some ways, but also has been to my detriment. It's important to learn about other people, other cultures, and New York, you are like up on someone all the time. You're like riding the subway, you're all walking to the same places. Like it's impossible to, be in a box. So that's something I'm extremely, extremely grateful for. And part of that is like, I really struggle with feeling like I have to do everything on my own and being like a total loner that like only supports myself, because for a long time that was like a survival skill that I used. So being kind of forced to be out of my shell a little bit helped me find a community, which is the queer community. And that is something that has totally changed my life for the better. So
in terms of music, like how would you say that kind of like owning this queer identity or like embracing it even has, influenced it for all the different reasons that it could?
yeah, I mean, I think that queer people since the beginning of time have been so creative, because at least in my experience, I can only speak to my experience, but I was that kid that like grew up and had like every hobby because I didn't know how to express myself in a lot of ways. And music just ended up being like the center of like all of the ways that I express myself. But yeah, I mean, in music, like I was exposed to like punk music. I like never listened to punk music when I was in Texas, and it was amazing to see like queer, like all girl punk bands that I had fallen in love with. For so long, music was like very I don't know, like very like polished, and I was scared to like make a mistake or like show too much personality in case it's like not what other people want to see or hear. And that was something that really affected me, was going to punk shows for the first time. So
yeah, I know you like, well, I guess I can more hear like you definitely take like inspiration from country music. I feel like there are so few queer musicians in country. I guess what's your experience been like, pulling influences from this community that maybe isn't as progressive as other ones?
I think country music for me growing up was kind of a club that I didn't relate to because like socially or politically, it kind of came with a lot of conservative ideologies that just didn't include me. I didn't feel included or like I wanted to echo like a lot of those ideas. So I grew up loving country music at first, and then once I kind of understood some of those ideas, I pushed against it and like wanted to be different, and kind of rejected country music as a whole. But when I was going through something really hard by moving to New York, Cowboy was a country inspired song, and it just came out because it's what I grew up with. I think that there are amazing country musicians that are queer, are people of color. There's like incredible country musicians out there that don't fit the mold of what we think country music is. And in a way, like I do think that I was being closed-minded toward country by labeling it all as one thing or one ideology. So I would like to shout out Brandi Carlile, because her music has really influenced me and like changed my perception of what country music is, because she is such a like trailblazing queer country artist. So yeah.
On the topic of country music, what do you love the most about country, and what certain artists or songs are you gravitating towards in terms of your own inspiration?
I'm obsessed with storytelling in music. I have fallen in love with songs because they're like in movies. And because of that, I think that I really gravitate towards songs that tell their own stories and have kind of their own narrative arc. And I think country music has done that beautifully. Like we all hear about, oh my God, Goodbye Earl by the Chicks. Great song about, killing a guy. And I think that is like an amazing example of how fun and like campy and like narratively exciting country music can be and has been. So yeah, that's one thing I love about it.
Is there anything you want more people to know about country music?
I think that the boundaries of country music are not as like musically are as restrictive as I think people are used to. And I also think that country music is heading in a really exciting direction where it's combining a lot of other genres. I am a pop artist in my heart. Like I make pop music, but it's inspired by country music and heavily influenced by like country and folk music. And I think that it can go really, really well with other genres. An amazing example is Avicii, Wake Me Up, incredible EDM country song. Lil Nas X is an icon, obviously. I could talk about him all the time, but I think that, opening up country music to other genres and like progressively like combining some of these like really fun different styles of music also can open it up to different kinds of people from different backgrounds. So I'm really, really excited to see what happens in the future, and I hope more people get into it because of that. So
are you allowed to tell us anything of what's coming, what we can expect?
Yeah, I'm working on an EP. I've been writing songs for this project for a year and a half, I think. And I have like 50 or 60 songs that I've written since I started working on stuff for this project. And I have an EP coming, a lot more music videos, a lot more songs.
Do you write songs in a way where you're like kind of watching a visual movie? Like how cinematic is it for you? And if you could speak to that process, because I think it's so just evident in everything you do that there's a clear storytelling.
Thanks, for one. I love, as I said before, I love movies, and that's probably my other big love in my life outside of music. When I write songs in my head, I'm like thinking about what it will look like as a movie. Every time. It doesn't even matter what the song's about. I'm thinking of it like a music video, and that's why all of my songs kind of lean visually descriptive, like super visually descriptive, because yeah, it's like describing a scene, something that I would like to watch, yeah, either in like short film, or I am always planning music videos as I'm writing. And
Wow.
that's a big reason why I get super excited about certain songs.
Have you felt that as you've like learned more about yourself and been more comfortable with your queerness, like your lyrics are also just like clearer? Because I feel like that's what I'm maybe getting from you.
Oh yeah, I tell everyone, I'm like, look, therapy made me a better songwriter, 1,000,000%. Um, I think it's funny because I've grown so much now, but growing up, I was really shy, and I didn't have a lot of resources to like talk to people about what I was going through. And I just was my only ride or die, I guess. So it has been a long time for me to learn how to be vulnerable, even in my music. But as I've, gone to therapy, or I've done like more emotional work, I find it so much easier to make not only like more honest songs, but more compelling songs, because the details of what has happened in my life or what I'm going through, that's like what makes it special and relatable. So hopefully when I release those songs, people can relate to my super embarrassing and vulnerable moments. There are so many of them. So.
What advice do you have for someone who maybe isn't ready to come out yet, but like gravitating towards that idea? Like, what advice do you have for someone?
Well, the first thing I want to say is that coming out is an extremely personal experience. Once you start coming out, you never stop coming out. So it has to be a personal decision that you make for yourself. And if you don't feel safe enough to come out in the environment you're in, it doesn't mean that you're not like a gay person. It doesn't mean that you are not like living your truth, or you're lying, or you're being deceptive. I think that it has to be a personal decision that you're happy with, and that is where it ends. I get a lot of messages from young queer people who are like, I feel really bad because I'm not ready to come out, but I feel like I'm lying if I'm not, being open and out. But not everybody has that privilege. So outside of that, my advice would be to connect with other queer people, whether it's, online, people your age, or it's like people in your community. Connecting with other queer people is the best, because the most comfortable you can make yourself in that process is seeing other people who are similar to you and are happy. I didn't grow up seeing any people who were queer and happy. I thought that I was like doomed to a life of being sad forever. And the thing that helped me was my therapist, who she's an adult and she has a partner that she's had for like 20 something years. I had never seen that before, or seeing people who were my age who had been out to their parents for like 10 years, or even people who weren't out and were just like happy. They had friends, they had like girlfriends, they had a support system, they had hobbies and like a great job. Like that is what really helped me, because I think so many young queer people who aren't out can relate to that feeling of a parent or someone close to you being like, we don't hate that you're gay, we just don't want you to live a hard life.
Yeah, no, that's so beautiful, and representation is just so important. And I think also to have you being this like young queer woman in the music industry, it's so important, and it means so much to so many people. If you don't follow her on TikTok, you definitely should. I mean, on every social platform, but I feel like especially on TikTok, I feel like there's so many people who are just attracted to your comment section just to express themselves, and it's beautiful. I guess like, what do you want the music industry to know about being young and queer in this industry? And yeah, what advice do you have for maybe a younger queer artist who wants to make music?
There are more and more queer artists that are visible and making music for, their community. I think one thing that was really meaningful to me was when I was like 21, I found out that St. Vincent is queer. I didn't know that. I was like shocked to find that out, but apparently people don't talk about that when you grow up in Texas, whatever. And I was listening to New York, And this is
Such a
when I
good
like,
song.
first such a good song.
Yeah.
I was listening to New York with my girlfriend, and she was like, this is a love song that could only be written about like a queer love story. And that, like, I'm like about to cry thinking about it. That is like, it changed my life when I heard that, because I had realized for so long I had never heard a song that represented like how I felt in that way. I had like made songs in my head like queer. I was like, yeah, Jolene, obviously, or like Valerie. I was like, yeah, these are like queer love songs, but it never was something that was like confirmed. So I think that the music industry needs to know that like there are so many people who are so hungry for songs like this, that want to, you know, cry after a breakup to like a gay breakup song or a love song, or just about like identity. Like a lot of my songs aren't even about girls, they're about my own identity and how it's affected me. And I think that you know, it's a ton of untapped potential. To answer your second question, my advice for young queer artists is, again, to like build a network. There's no such thing as like competition. We all should be supporting each other. There's no such thing as like, oh, this is the queer artist, or this is the artist that does this, or whatever. We all need to support each other and be there, because no one person listens to only one artist. There's room for everybody. And I think there's strength in numbers. So that is my advice.
And to support queer artists, like buy their merch, stream their music.
Yes. Yeah, please see them in shows when it's safe again. I think that this next year is going to be an incredible year for queer artists. That Lil Nas X video, I cried my eyes out watching it. I just, the way to like see a queer Black man express his sexuality in that video, it like ruined me. I realized I hadn't seen a video like that before. And it was the same thing where like when I heard that St. Vincent song, I was like, oh my God, I've never experienced this before. How is that possible? So yeah, it's going to be a wonderful year. And it has, you know, been kicked off by already like incredible and groundbreaking stuff. So anyway, I like cried and now all bets are off. I can't organize my thoughts anymore.
Oh, that's so beautiful and so important. And yeah, I think there are so many, especially after this year, like some people in their bedrooms, like trying to express themselves, and everyone should know that it's okay to be yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like the bottom line of like all the like supportive queer messages that are going out there. There's no such thing as normal. Like everyone creates their own life, everyone is different. And I think that for so long, like queer people have had to water down their experiences to fit in. And what my big hope for this year and for the rest of forever is that instead of watering down our experiences to fit in, we can stand out and celebrate our differences instead. So
I'm with you. What makes you optimistic right now?
oh, I mean,
Hear about.
I love seeing other people like shine and grow. I'm optimistic because I didn't talk about TikTok yet, but I go on TikTok and I see how supported and loved and open people who are 5 years younger than me, even like 10 years younger than me, are. When I was in high school, I did not know any queer people, and I thought I was the only one. And I was feeling super isolated and like confused. And I think that now I see so many people grow up feeling like, even if they don't know tons of people in their immediate community, they know they're out there. And that is so special. So that makes me feel super hopeful for the future. I get on and I'm just like, oh my God, thank God that they didn't have to go through like the very specific pain that I went through because of things like TikTok. So yeah.
No, I cannot say it enough. Like TikTok is a glimpse into the future. Like I think so many important conversations having in there that like even I wasn't even growing up that long ago, and I still feel so connected to that community. And it's wild. I love TikTok. I love how you use TikTok. I love how the music industry, I feel like, is finally paying attention to TikTok. Like, I think it's so exciting. And I mean, Lil Nas X even. So musically, I guess, like, what are you excited about right now? What can we wait? What can we expect to see from you soon? Where do you want your sound to go?
My songs will still always be like country and folk inspired, but I think that as I keep writing, it keeps getting like bigger and bigger. Like I'm really influenced by like rock music. I'm really influenced by like Carole King and Billy Joel. So that will be very fun. I'm excited because the music videos are going to get crazier and still be within that universe. And I can't wait to collab with some artists that I really love. There's something really exciting and special and validating about collaborating with artists that you're like a stan of. So I can't wait for that to come in the future too. So I have a love of storytelling because it's like all connected with movies. I am a big fan of expressing myself through like heightened emotions, higher stakes, classic like movie stuff, I guess. I think that each song is its own story and I think serves a different purpose. And I want my songs to be kind of like whatever you're going through, there's like a specific song for it. And my EP will be able to like cover a wide range of emotions. So you're not listening to like the same song about the same thing. But in terms of like a bigger project, I think that the EP is mainly about like identity. Like we all have to live in our body, we all have to live in our own heads. And there's a lot of songs about love. There's a lot of songs about like conflict. And for me personally, my greatest conflict has been being myself, feeling different than other people for, you know, many different reasons. And I think a really fun way to explore that is through stories that have like ghosts or robots or aliens, because when I was growing up, watching movies did that for me. And I want to create that same feeling where you feel safe enough to explore something scary because it feels kind of silly or funny or weird. So, you know, it's really, really hard. Sometimes I still struggle as a 25-year-old woman to talk about my experience because it is only my experience and I can't speak for other people. But I think that something like as a queer person that a lot of people can relate to is you feel like you go through like puberty or adulthood like later than most people because you're like learning how to like talk to girls or like learning about yourself or like developing your own personal style like later in life than most everyone else does. And I used to feel really self-conscious that there were teenagers that were like incredible artists that had like amazing careers. And I was like, when is my moment going to come? But yeah, I'm 25 now and I feel like I understand myself a lot more. I have a lot more fun with how I present, with how I act, and I have much better friends now. And I know that it can be kind of like cheesy to say it gets better, but I do really think that it takes time to get to know yourself. It takes time when you struggle with internalized homophobia, and it's all worth it. It's all worth the wait. This is the best phase of my life, and it's because I took the time to like learn about myself and figure out how to express myself in like the healthiest way. So I just wanted to add that at the end.
That was beautiful, and I completely agree. Everything takes, it's all process, and it's not linear ever.
Takes time. Yeah. And you're never done. That's the other thing. You're never done.
You can take like 5 steps forward and then like 15 steps back and then another 2 forward. It's just, life is like a process, and everything just takes time, and it does get better. I will say like, I never envisioned my life being like this, like in the best way. And the only reason that I feel so much better is because I kept taking steps forward, even when I took steps back. So no, I completely agree. It's a process. Everything's a process. Yeah. And I feel like when I was younger, especially, like I would have this idea of everything just being so linear, like you get a job and then you get another one and you like learn this about yourself and then you get married. And it just, I think growing up, I've realized like, I think we need to talk more about how it's messier and complicated.
When people are always like, when did you come out? And I'm like, which time?
I too.
not one big like debutante ball, like I'm now out kind of thing. It's way more complicated than that. And I think that a lot of people can relate to the feeling of like, am I really gay? Wait, no, I'm not. But like, yes, I am, but like, maybe I'm not. And then you just feel that way for years. And then by the time you're an adult, you're like, I guess I just never trust myself again on anything because I was wrong. Yeah. Anyway, long story short, I do think that like, you're 100% right. It's not linear. And it's also like, it's okay. It's okay to want to get to know yourself better, to take a step back, and to give yourself time. There's no rush, and putting limits on yourself. Like the world doesn't end when you're 30. That would be so tragic and sad. You have all the time in the world to figure yourself out, and there will always be people that love and support you. And even if you don't know them, there's like an entire community that loves you, and they don't even have to know you to love you. So
yes, this is why your music is so special though, because it does bring people together in different like ideations of their identity, and I think that's so important. I think music is so important to do that, but especially yours like has always felt so real, no matter what you do, if it's like a full video or if it's just a TikTok 15-second
thank you.
iteration on a trend, like it does feel very, yeah, very, it's a community and I love it.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. And like Cowboy, like, look, Cowboy is a queer song about like my personal experience, but I do think anyone can relate to the feeling of being in between two things, being in between two worlds, not knowing themselves fully and feeling like a fish out of water. So it's not, only relatable to one community. I can also relate to it in other ways as well. Like I grew up not knowing I had ADHD and like really struggled connecting with other kids. So yeah, I hope that lots of people can get something from that song and my songs in the future, because I don't know anyone who hasn't felt like an underdog or hasn't felt like an outsider at some point. So
absolutely. No, I could not agree more. And I think, yeah, your lyrics are so specific and rich in that sense.
Thanks. Thank you, like, also, by the way, for doing this. Like
Of course.
it's like a very specific kind of like anxiety to like be on video and talk about these like really, really vulnerable things. So I'm so glad that you were the person that did it, because you're so good at being like sensitive and thoughtful with people's like coming out stories, or the story of like how they became to be who they are. So thank you so much.
Thank you for doing what you do. You inspire so many young people every day. It's so special, and I'm so happy we finally got to meet. I feel like think people on the internet, especially someone like you who shares themselves. Like I feel like we've been best friends forever, even though we've met
just
today.
besties. Yeah. Just two besties hanging out.